range record had stood for 8 years. Chris Kyle's legendary 1,920-meter shot. Every SEAL sniper had tried to beat it. Then, a quiet woman from California stepped up to the firing line and changed naval history. "You really think you can beat Kyle's record?" Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Webb laughed as he watched Petty Officer Lisa Chen adjust her shooting position. That shot was made by the most lethal sniper in U.S. military history. Lisa said nothing. She'd been at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado for 6 months, and the SEAL snipers still treated her like she was visiting from another planet. "Come on, Chen. Kyle had 160 confirmed kills. You've been shooting paper targets." What they didn't know was that Lisa's paper targets had been moving ones in places her service record couldn't mention. The shooting range at Coronado was legendary among military snipers. Stretched across the California desert, it featured targets at distances that pushed both equipment and human capability to their absolute limits. The 2,000-meter mark was considered the edge of what was possible with conventional sniper rifle. Lisa positioned herself behind her Mark 13 sniper rifle, the same weapon Chris Kyle had used for his record shot. The target was a steel silhouette, barely visible through the heat shimmer rising from the desert floor. "Winds gusting at 12 miles per hour from the southwest," called out Petty Officer Second Class Jake Morrison, acting as spotter. "Temperatures 94 degrees, humidity at 23%. Lisa nodded, making minute adjustments to her scope. The other SEAL snipers gathered behind the firing line, some placing bets on how badly she would miss. "I'll give her credit for trying," muttered Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez. "But Kyle's shot was perfect. Textbook conditions, perfect equipment, perfect execution. She's been here 6 months and still hasn't told us where she trained," Morrison added. "Probably learned to shoot at some civilian marksmanship course." Lisa continued her breathing exercises, feeling for the wind patterns across the 2-kilometer range. What the SEALs didn't know was that she'd learned to shoot in places where missing meant more than embarrassment. "You know what Kyle said about that shot?" Webb continued. "He said it was part luck, part skill, and part divine intervention. No way anyone's beating that record." Lisa's finger moved to the trigger. Through her scope, the target looked impossibly small, dancing in the heat waves like a mirage. She fired. The bullet traveled for nearly 3 seconds, cutting through swirling desert air before striking the steel target with a distinctive ring that echoed across the range. "Hit!" Morrison called out, lowering his spotting scope. "Dead center." The group fell silent. Hitting the target at 1,920 meters was impressive, but it wasn't a record. That had been done before. "Nice shot, Chen," Webb said grudgingly. "But matching Kyle's distance isn't the same as beating it." Lisa stood up, checking her data book. "Who said I was done?" She walked to the range officer station and pointed to a target even further downrange, the 2,100-meter mark, a distance no one had ever attempted during qualification shooting. "You're kidding," Rodriguez said. "That's beyond effective range for the Mark 13. Equipment limitations," Morrison agreed. "Even Kyle never tried a shot that far." Lisa returned to her shooting position, but this time she made adjustments that caught the attention of the more experienced snipers. She changed her scope settings, adjusted her bipod, and repositioned her body in ways that suggested training far beyond what she'd admitted to. "Where did you learn to shoot?" Webb asked, his tone shifting from mockery to genuine curiosity. "Different places," Lisa replied, settling into her shooting position. The 2,100-meter target was barely a speck in the distance, visible only through high-powered optics. The conditions were challenging. Wind had increased to 15 miles per hour, and the afternoon heat was creating unpredictable air currents. Lisa spent 5 minutes studying the environmental conditions, making calculations in her head that went far beyond standard sniper training. She was accounting for Coriolis effect, barometric pressure changes, and wind variations at multiple points along the bullet's trajectory. "She's been out there for 5 minutes, Morrison observed. "Kyle took his shot in under 2. Different shot," Webb said quietly. "Kyle was shooting at known distance under controlled conditions. This is..." He paused, watching Lisa make micro-adjustments to her position. "This is something else." Lisa's breathing slowed to almost nothing. Through her scope, she could see the target wavering in the heat shimmer, but between the waves, for just a fraction of a second, it would steady. She waited and waited. Then, in the space between heartbeats, between breaths, between the gusts of desert wind, she squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked and everyone on the range held their breath. 3.5 seconds later, The distinctive ping of bullet-striking steel echoed across the desert. "Jesus Christ," Morrison whispered. "Did she just—" "Range control. Confirm impact at 2,100 meters," Webb called over the radio. "Confirmed. Dead center hit at 2,100 meters. New range record." The silence that followed was complete. Lisa had just broken Chris Kyle's record by 180 meters, using a shot that pushed the boundaries of what military snipers thought was possible. Webb approached her slowly, his earlier dismissiveness replaced by professional respect. "Chen, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Where did you really learn to shoot?" Lisa began breaking down her rifle, cleaning each component with the methodical precision of someone who had depended on the weapon for survival. "Senior Chief, some training doesn't appear in official records." "What's that supposed to mean?" Instead of answering directly, Lisa showed him her data book. The pages were filled with range cards, wind calculations, and target analysis that went far beyond anything taught in conventional sniper training. Rodriguez looked over Webb's shoulder, studying the entries. "These aren't training targets. These are mission profiles. Look at the distances," Morrison added. "Some of these shots are over 2,000 meters. Webb turned to the page Lisa had indicated. What he saw made him understand why she had been so confident about breaking Kyle's record. The entries detailed shots taken in urban environments, from elevated positions, through windows, around obstacles, and under combat conditions that would have challenged the most experienced military snipers. "Afghanistan?" Webb asked quietly. "Among other places, you were deployed as a sniper?" "Not officially." Webb nodded slowly. He'd been in the teams long enough to understand what "not officially" meant in the special operations community. That evening, Webb made a phone call to a contact at Naval Special Warfare Command. The conversation was brief, but when it ended, he had answers that explained everything. Lisa Chen hadn't just been a sniper. She'd been part of a classified program that provided precision fire support for operations that required complete deniability. Her official record showed logistics and support assignments that provided perfect cover for missions that never happened. The next morning, Webb found Lisa at the range conducting her usual practice session. "I made some calls last night," he said, settling beside her spotting scope. Lisa continued cleaning her rifle. "I figured you would. 12 confirmed kills at ranges exceeding 1,800 meters. Mission success rate of 100%. 0 friendly casualties. The numbers don't tell the whole story." "No, they don't, but they tell me enough." Webb paused, watching her work. "Why didn't you say anything? Why let us think you were just another trainee?" Lisa looked up from her rifle. "Because being the best sniper in the room doesn't matter if you can't work as part of a team. I needed to know if you could respect the person before you knew about the record." Webb nodded. "And now? Now you know that records are just numbers. What matters is whether you can make the shot when lives depend on it." Over the following weeks, word of Lisa's record spread throughout the Naval Special Warfare community. Snipers from other teams began visiting Coronado, hoping to learn from the woman who had surpassed Chris Kyle's legendary shot. But Lisa approached the attention with characteristic humility. Kyle's record stood for 8 years because it represented excellence under pressure, she told a group of visiting instructors. "Breaking records isn't about being better than the people who came before. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible." Chief Rodriguez, who had initially questioned Lisa's presence among the SEALs, became one of her strongest supporters. "She didn't just break a record," he told new sniper candidates. "She showed us that precision has no gender, no size requirement, and no specific background. The only thing that matters is whether you can deliver when everything is on the line." The Coronado range established a new 2,100-meter target as a permanent fixture, officially designated the Chen Line in honor of the shot that redefined what naval snipers thought was achievable. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the SEAL community approached marksmanship training. Lisa's techniques, developed through combat experience in classified operations, became part of the standard curriculum for advanced sniper training. 3 months after her record shot, Lisa was selected to lead the Naval Special Warfare Sniper Instructor Program, becoming the first woman to hold the position. During her first class, she addressed a group of experienced SEALs who had come to learn from the sniper who had achieved the impossible. Chris Kyle's record stood for 8 years, not because no one could beat it, but because everyone was trying to replicate his exact shot, she began. True marksmanship isn't about copying what someone else did. It's about understanding the principles well enough to exceed them. A student raised his hand. "Ma'am, what's the most important thing you learned from making that shot?" Lisa considered the question carefully. "That records are meant to inspire, not intimidate. Kyle's 1,920-meter shot showed what was possible. Breaking it showed what comes next. Years later, when military historians analyzed the evolution of long-range precision shooting, they consistently pointed to Lisa Chen's 2,100-meter shot as the moment that transformed modern sniper training. But Lisa herself remained focused on the future rather than the past. Records get broken, she would tell her students. What matters is whether the person who breaks them understands the responsibility that comes with that capability. The Chris Kyle Memorial Range at Coronado now features targets at distances that were considered impossible when Kyle set his record. Students regularly attempt shots that push the boundaries of equipment and human capability. And at the 2,100-meter line, a simple plaque reads, "Excellence has no limits. P.O.L. Chen, 2,100 meters, new range record." But perhaps the most fitting tribute to Lisa's achievement came from Chris Kyle's widow, Taya, who visited the range 2 years after the record was set. "Chris would have been proud," she said, standing at the firing line where Lisa had made her historic shot. "He always said that records exist to be broken, and that the best way to honor a warrior is to surpass their achievements." Lisa Chen had done exactly that, proving that true excellence isn't about holding records. It's about inspiring others to reach even higher. The quiet woman from California had changed naval history not by diminishing Chris Kyle's legacy, but by extending it into a future where precision, dedication, and skill mattered more than any other qualification. And every time a new sniper attempted the 2,100-meter shot, they honored both Kyle's pioneering achievement and Chen's proof that there are no limits to what's possible when someone refuses to accept that something can't be done. Ever broken a record that people said was impossible? Type "impossible achieved." Subscribe for more stories of military excellence that redefined history. Like if you believe records are meant to be broken. Share with someone who needs to aim higher. Comment below. What's your impossible goal that you achieved against all odds?